Welcome into the Sideline Sports Show. Ben and Tim here with you on this lovely Thursday night. Tim, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, Ben, I can't complain. We were talking about this beforehand. We kind of complete each other today. You got the shirt,
Ah,
and I've got the hat that kind of goes along with it.
yeah, chop on. I mean, even though they're not performing at the best rate that we would normally think, hopefully they'll
Yeah,
turn around and towards after the All Star break, like what they kind of did last year. But before we do all our MLB talk, Tim, it's been a while, my friend, since
it
we've been
has.
together. It's all for good reasons. We've both been in the broadcast booth, and kind of all over the place. I did a spring game. You did a lot of baseball games for the regional of NGU. And now they're in the Division II College World Series. So it's been a very fun and interesting couple of weeks. So
It
um,
has.
glad that we've been able to do what we love to do, but also just get a little bit of time away from doing this as well. But we're back. So let's talk about the NBA Finals, Tim, because the last time we covered the NBA since we've been on the show, I think we were probably in the second round of the playoffs. Maybe I think the Hawks maybe just got eliminated. It's been a little bit since we've covered some NBA, but it's now between the Warriors and the Celtics. But first, let's kind of break down the conference finals, and let's start with Boston and Miami. Really, it kind of came down to game. I want to say it was five. Miami, they were down. Stephen A. Smith even mentioned this. They could not go and win in TD Garden, but they did, and they forced a game six. Uh, and eventually, that's where the Celtics won game six and advanced to the finals for the first time with Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown. So what are your thoughts on that Eastern Conference Finals?
Yeah, if you had told me that the Heat in games 5 or 7, all they have to do is win one of those two games and they go to the finals, I'd have placed money. I'd have placed a decent amount of money on that. Oh, that they'd have been able to do it. But credit to the Celtics. That was a fascinating series. Each team split when they went home for the first 4 games, and then games 5, 6, and 7, the road team came away with a victory. Which it's late in the postseason. You don't see a whole lot. You see good games, but a lot of times the home crowd's usually able to push the team forward. But in this case, both teams gutted out road victories. The Celtics just happened to do it twice. So again, a lot of good stuff from Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, all those boys. Al Horford getting to his first finals of his career. Man,
Yeah,
I'm
that was
happy to
shocking.
see it for him. I mean, and they're setting up for a good series with the Warriors, who kind of cruise in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and talk about that Western Conference Finals, Tim, as it was between the Mavericks and the Warriors. As Luca, I think a lot of people said in like game one, game two, we've seen this before with Luca, where he kind of just smiled as he's walking off the court into the locker room. But really, the Warriors kind of handled their business, and now they're going to be going to the finals once again. This time they're actually not facing LeBron James, so that's actually very very unknown for the Warriors when they make it to the finals these days. So
Yeah.
this is a little bit of a different opponent. Now it's a lot of a younger group. Doesn't have a lot of veteran talent other than Al Horford. So go ahead, tell us what your thoughts were on that Western Conference Finals as the Dubs cruise to a finals appearance.
Yeah, kind of that more so that Dub City's back. I mean, Andrew Wiggins, people kind of he went to there from Minnesota, and people weren't really sure he's going to make that much of an impact. But it's just kind of anytime you play with a guy like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and even Draymond Green, like those guys warrant a lot of attention. Draymond, it's for other reasons, sometimes other than basketball, but still, like a lot of those guys can handle a lot of different areas. So sometimes you're just able to focus on your game and take on a certain role, and you're able to excel at that one role. That's kind of what Andrew Wiggins has done. That's what multiple guys on this team have done that have stepped up for this team, as well as Curry being Curry. The Draymond Green still being that hustle guy, that rebounder guy, that trash talker that's going to get in the other team's face and let them know it. This team has a lot of different options, and they kind of use that. Now for the Mavs, it's this offseason is going to be very important for them. Getting Luka some help. I mean, that guy needs some help. He needs another star. They tried Kristaps Porzingis. Obviously, that didn't work. So they need to try to find someone that's going to be able to help Luka out. And otherwise, they're kind of the Western Conference Finals may be their ceiling. So as I look ahead to these finals, man, I'm excited about it. And only reason is it's like, man, I'm hoping these games are better than what the whole playoffs as a whole has been. Because you kind of look at it, this playoffs really hasn't been that crazy. There haven't been too many one possession games. I mean, that game 7 with Boston and Miami was close to get. I mean, that game finished with a 4-point margin. And it even then though it didn't really seem that close. So like the NBA really needs this NBA Finals to be really good. And because the first round all the way up to the conference finals, man, it's just not been it this year. So these two teams, the NBA really needs this finals to be really good, and I think it can. I think these are two of the best teams in the NBA. Obviously, the two best that have survived through the playoffs. So I think this could be an entertaining finals for sure. Now I won't be able to watch it just because of all the late tips. I'll be honest with you.
Because it starts at 9:00, so
I
Eastern
usually
time for us.
Yeah, and I usually I have to be in bed at that moment. I hate it, but sometimes like with work and everything, I got an early wake up call. I can't watch it, so hopefully watch highlights the next day and they'll be good. But I just overall for ratings and stuff, these NBA playoffs have been very mid thus far, and that for ratings sake and for NBA sake, they really need this NBA Finals to be something special, and it does have the potential to be so as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you mentioned is the NBA really needs this right now because of the fact of the ratings really throughout the playoffs have actually kind of decreased normally than what it normally has. But I mean, also I don't think it counts for a lot of the airplane travel as well because I don't know if you saw this, Tim, but there was like a video on social media that kind of floated around. It was on TikTok, it was on Instagram, and I think SportsCenter even posted it. And they were all on this huge flight, and everybody was tuning into Game 7 of the Miami Heat Celtics Boston Celtics game. It was pretty cool. So I don't think that viewership counts when you're in the air, but down on the ground, it just wasn't that great for a Game 7. And it's like you mentioned, like it was a 4-point game, but it really didn't feel like it. It didn't feel like it at all. So it's going to be crucial for the Celtics to compete with the Dubs. I think the Dubs take Game 1 tonight, Tim. So your thoughts, your predictions on this finals. What do you think? Who do you think is the winner of the 2022 NBA Finals?
Well, the Celtics have a lot of talent. Obviously, there are a lot of guys that are older that have they're starting to get older. They're becoming veterans now in the league. They're starting to make their way in terms of talent, and they're right in the peak of their careers. They also have the veteran leadership like Al Horford and such. But I think overall, you look at Golden State, man, they're too much. Curry, Draymond, Wiggins. There's a talent left and right on this Golden State team, and they can attack you however they want to. It can be anybody on any given night that just gets hot for this team, and you don't know who it's going to be, and that's tough to game plan for. That really is. So I think the Warriors are going to most likely take this series. Now, how long it'll go will be entirely up to Boston and how they want to play defense. So it should be interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for me, I think the Dubs take Game 1. I think the Celtics probably will end up. Now, I'll say Golden State takes Game 2. I think Boston will probably take Game 3. I would say Warriors take Game 4. Let's see. And I think they'll end it in 5 games. So I say the Dubs win in 5. So they'll win it back at home. So I don't really see the Celtics. They're a great young team. I think they have a lot of talent to take them back to the finals again next year. But they don't have the experience like the Dubs have. And with Jordan Poole being that great guy kind of off the bench, being like another mold of like Steph Curry in some ways, forms, and fashion, I think they're going to be well more rounded than the Boston Celtics. So I'm going to take Golden State Warriors in 5. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I'll probably go Golden State, and I'll say 6. I'll give Boston 6 games. And for NBA sake, you better hope at least it goes 6. Because if this goes 5 and the games aren't really that entertaining, no one's really going to care.
Yeah, and I mean, that will obviously just say Golden State was probably the best team from the beginning. And even though they weren't the 1 seed, they were still the better team throughout the playoffs. So it'll be really interesting to see how that kind of plays out. All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we will be covering some college baseball and some big things that are happening within college baseball and where teams fell and how we think they will do. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome back into the Sideline Sports Show. Ben and Tim with you. Ben, I don't know if you know yet, but tomorrow the NCAA regionals kick off. We get underway.
Oh,
Top 16 seeds. We found them out. We found out who's going to be where and all this kind of stuff. We found out SEC and the ACC tied, which it shouldn't have been. ACC should have set a record for teams in play. Ole Miss should not have been in the field over NC State, but hey, we can talk about that here. But 9 teams from the ACC, 9 teams from the SEC, a couple mid-majors host as well. Notably stand out, Georgia Southern at 16. You got East Carolina, they're at 8, I believe, which would be interesting because I believe the 9 national seed is Texas. So if both of them, which East Carolina's got a tough regional. I mean, they've got Virginia in there with them. I believe didn't they have like Coastal or something in there with them? I have to double check that.
Yeah, Coastal Carolina's in that. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a really tough Greenville region, but they're able to get through that. They're gonna most likely face Texas, and Texas will have to go to Greenville, North Carolina. That would be an interesting 3-game set potentially for that one. But overall, obviously Tennessee's number 1 seed. Your top 4 seeds. I mean, we're Tennessee, Stanford, then Oregon State, then Virginia Tech, who was the dogs in the ACC this year. You also got Miami in there. You also got a couple other teams hosting as well. What stands out in your mind in terms of the national seeds for you?
Man, I'll tell you this. Number one, I'm a Tech fan, so I think one of the biggest things for me that stood out was Georgia Tech got in the same regional as Tennessee, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be fun. I think you'll see Georgia Tech and Tennessee face off in that regional to see who will advance, and I think that will be a very good SEC-ACC game because it's kind of like Tennessee's been the most dominant team in college baseball, but Georgia Tech, they've had like moments where they've been really, really good, but they've had moments where they've been really, really bad. So if Georgia Tech wants to compete with Tennessee, they got to be able to like be stable, consistent throughout the whole entire College World Series, and I don't know if they can do that. I think Tennessee will win that. Even though I'm a Tech fan, I really believe that Tennessee will probably take that one. I think the biggest snub out of everybody in this is Ole Miss did make it in over NC State, where I think the FPI ranked Ole Miss 39th and NC State was ranked 33rd. So I think that was a really big difference in numbers right there. And I don't know. I want to know the reason why NC State got snubbed out. Wofford was a really good pick that should have been in there. They had a really good year. So I think there was just a lot of concerns on how they selected these teams where they were going to go because not a lot of them make sense. And so it's really interesting to see how the NCAA kind of put this together and why they put it together. And there's really no explanation. But it's really interesting to see how all these teams fell where they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned Wofford. I want to talk about them for a second. They were one of the first 4 teams out. It's tough for them. I mean, they had dominated all year long. Apparently, they didn't view their non-conference slate to be enough, I guess you would say. And it didn't help them that they got absolutely pounded when they played an ACC school in Clemson. They got beat 17, I think it was like 5 or something like that, maybe 17-4. That didn't help them. NC State, I don't know. It puzzles the mind because it's like, what in the world were they thinking? Like, what is with them in the NCAA? I mean, everyone knows last year in the College World Series, they got absolutely hosed by the NCAA up there in the College World Series just before they took on Vanderbilt in that winner take-all game to get to the College World Series finals. That COVID thing happened. They wouldn't let them play. They wouldn't let them postpone it. Nothing. They just basically said, you're done. And then this year they leave them out of the field. An interesting thing to look at is that people are also talking about there's no real representation from the ACC in this.
I agree.
And which makes it's like, okay, maybe that did play a factor in this. That maybe that also played a factor in why Notre Dame wasn't a regional host. I mean, they're having to go down to Georgia Southern, for goodness sakes. I mean, they're having to go down to Statesboro, Georgia, and deal with that heat. A very good Notre Dame team, by the way. They're not as good as they were last year. Obviously, that team last year was insanely good. Had enough talent to get to Omaha had they not run into the eventual national champions in the super regional Mississippi State. But I kind of felt bad for them. But just overall, man, the ACC just not well represented in the committee, and it showed. And it's like, wait a minute, this Wolfpack team, you're going to leave Tommy Tanks out of this? You're going to leave this team that made a run in the ACC tournament? I mean, seriously, it's like, were you going to put them in? I mean, you had to put them in had they won that ACC championship game, obviously, because North Carolina was already in. I mean, they're regional hosts, for crying out loud. They probably would have been a 2 seed, but they'd still been in. So I don't know. I look at it as it's just like, what I don't understand where the NCAA is coming from. So that question about the no representation from the ACC on that board and from the NCAA selection committee, it's puzzling and it just makes you wonder.
And you brought up a fantastic point, Tim, that you mentioned last year of how everything occurred because it was the COVID season. They had COVID, they couldn't play. Mississippi State to move on to the College World Series, and it was just basically a forfeit. And I think they were really hungry to get back to that College World Series this year, and they put up really good numbers within the ACC tournament, played very well in the ACC tournament, and still, even though that is good in our minds for ACC play, for the rest of the world, it means absolutely nothing. And Ole Miss, who in my mind did not perform up to standard in the SEC tournament, got in over an NC State who played very well last year in the College World Series, was probably going to make another good run in this College World Series, and probably upset a lot of teams who were those top seed teams. Even though they weren't going to host a regional, I still think they should have been, at least been in somewhere as a 4 seed, even though and this is just me speaking, I think they are probably a better team than Georgia Tech. And I'm not trying to be rude in any way, form, or fashion, but they've played a better baseball than Georgia Tech has all year. And I think they should have deserved a spot more in Georgia Tech. That's just my opinion.
No, I can understand that. You know, they were kind of the 10th seed coming into the tournament, I believe. So they weren't exactly one of the best in ACC, but let's be real here. The ACC in terms of baseball was just absolutely insane this year. I mean, again, had they have gotten NC State in there, they would have legit set a record for most teams from a conference. I mean, and had Clemson not have laid an egg in the ACC tournament, they could have had they were on their way to having 11 teams in there potentially. But so the ACC this year was real strong, especially at the top, like Virginia Tech, Miami, all these guys. They're real strong. But I mean, I want to look at another team, man, that's so exciting. I mean, 53-7 through 60 games in D1 baseball is insane, and it's in the SEC and the Tennessee Volunteers, man. Coach Patel, I mean, the job that he's done at Tennessee, man. I mean, and he certainly ain't volunteering to do it. That's for sure. So, I mean, it's unbelievable. They're real fun to watch. I mean. Now, it's been a long time. Last I saw, the last overall number 1 seed to win the national title, Ben, was in the 20th century, 1999. So it's been a long time since the number 1 overall seed has actually gone all the way through and won it. But if I had to go out on a limb, I'd say this team has a really good shot to do it, especially if they get past Georgia Tech, which their matchup against Georgia Tech I like for them.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech can keep up with the bats, but as a lot of people have said before, Ben, no offense, Georgia Tech's pitching staff kind of tends to be put up little league numbers sometime, you know? I mean, it's just like times like especially in that ballpark in Knoxville, Tennessee, man, that could be a fun game. I mean, we could have Georgia Tech scoring 10 runs and still losing by 12.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very, very possible in this regional. So, and then they'll face the winner of the Statesboro Regional, which is Georgia Southern or Notre Dame. And so, which I think would be one of those two teams, two very solid teams. And I think Notre Dame, honestly, I think is going to come out of that regional. So, which would stink for Notre Dame because that's 2 back-to-back years they're going to have to go to an SEC school. But I think they're very capable of doing it, and I think that would be an absolutely fantastic matchup in a super regional. I just don't think Georgia Tech matches up well with Tennessee just because of their pitching staff. Man, it's just not strong enough, especially since Georgia Tech's going to have to use their ace first before.
And I think it's going to be very interesting. And it's like you mentioned, Georgia Tech's offense has been fantastic this year. I think when I was there, I think and this was the Miami series, the last Miami series before they went to Clemson. they were averaging, I think, like 12 runs a game, and which is fantastic for Georgia Tech. But since that Miami series, I think that first game, I don't think in that whole entire Miami series, I'd have to go back and look. I don't think they scored more than 10 runs. I really don't. Like in not the whole entire series, but in a game. I don't think they scored more than 10 runs in a single game. And I don't think they scored more than 10 after that because at Clemson, they didn't perform well at Clemson. I think they played one more game, and I want to say it was Mercer, and I think it may not have been Mercer. It was somebody else. It was just a single game on a Tuesday night. They did win that one like 14-11, but in the ACC tournament, they didn't even score that many runs. I think they came out flat in that first game against Pitt. I mean, it was awful. And then they won that second game. I think it was Louisville.
Louisville, yeah.
But they didn't even win by 10 runs in that. So I think Georgia Tech's bats right now are not where it wants to be. They're going to really have to rely on getting that 3 and 4 hole with Kevin Parada. And I cannot remember his name off the top of my head, but Kevin Parada will be the difference for that whole entire offense in that game. He's just been lights out this year. But it's like you mentioned, that pitching staff is just – it's like an up and down year. They'll have one good game, and then the rest of it is awful. So if they really want to win that Knoxville Regional, they've got to go out and worry about the pitching more than they worry about the offense. Because that Tennessee offense is hot coming into this one, and I don't think they're going to stop at all. So it's going to be very, very interesting. And like you said, I do think, even though as a Tech fan, I believe not Tennessee will walk out of that Knoxville Regional with the win. And then I think it would be very interesting to see Georgia Southern move on after that Statesboro Regional. But it's like you said, Notre Dame is a very, very talented team, and I think they could walk out of there with the win as well. So I feel like that one's more of a coin flip than Georgia Tech, Tennessee. So just in my opinion.
For sure.
Yeah. So who else stands out to you? Because I know we've talked about that left side of the bracket. Who on that right side of the bracket do you think is going to be a very, very competitive team?
I like East Carolina. I do. I like them this year. They usually perform great all year, and then they get to run into somebody in the supers or in the regional, or and just kind of the one year they fell to South Carolina. They couldn't get out of their own regional. 1 year one year, that was last year. They went to Vanderbilt and they just kind of ran into Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker 1 year. I mean, they kind of didn't get lucky at all for them. So I think this year this fits well. Now they're going to have to deal with the guy that people coined the term the Hispanic Titanic. I think Ivan Melendez over there at Texas. I mean, kid's well on his way to potentially breaking the BB Core record that Chris Bryant had for home runs in a year. So, I mean, he's a stud, leads the nation in home runs. So, if those two teams can make it out of their regional, which East Carolina that's definitely going to be a challenge for them. And don't look out, now, but Air Force took it to Texas earlier in the year when they played them in Austin. So, that's kind of a game to kind of keep your eye on. I know Texas, the Air Force is not going to be creeping up on them this time, so it should be interesting. But I think those two teams meeting up, I think would be heavily favored. I think that would be a fantastic super regional. But I like East Carolina to finally break through and make an appearance in Omaha. I do. I think I like them on that side of the bracket. I think that they could come out and make a run towards Omaha.
Here's my shocking one, and I don't know which regional it is. It doesn't say. But my favorite one, and this is just me, I'm going to take the 1 and the 3 seed out of this, and that is Southern Miss, I believe, will be Army, and Kennesaw State will be LSU. And here's why I say that. Kennesaw State, they're kind of like the under-the-radar team, and it always happens like this. There's always one under-the-radar team that goes out and performs very well within this first round of the regionals. And I feel like Kennesaw State, even though they just come off winning the ASUN Conference for like the first time, and I can't tell you how long in baseball, they're going to be red hot coming into this tournament, and I believe that they could really shock the LSU because I think LSU is probably coming in here thinking, oh, it's just Kennesaw State. Like, they didn't play nobody. But I think Kennesaw State, they look legit. They kind of do. I know it's been an up-and-down season, but towards the end, they've looked really good. So I think they could come out and shock LSU in that first round. So it would be very, very good, but I can't. That's my upset pick. That's what I'm going to go with.
Now, I will say another ASUN team that I would go with, a team that was actually in the last four in, Liberty. They every time they go to the tournament, they always make an upset. I mean, last year they made an upset over Duke. I mean, which was shocking in the Tennessee regional. So I think you got to keep your eye on them as well. I think anytime that they come to town, they're without a doubt a threat. So definitely got to keep your eye on the Flames over there at Liberty.
Yeah. And then right before we take a break and go to MLB, Tim, we've been informed that Clemson has released Monty Lee as their head coach. And now you want and I don't know if you're pushing for this, Tim. If you go on Tim's Twitter, I don't know if he's really pushing for it.
No.
But Tim wants Landon Powell, NGU head coach, to go to Clemson. That's what it seems like, Tim. That's what
okay, let me put it out there right here, right now for the North Greenville people. Look, I would much rather him stay at North Greenville, and maybe one day, even if I don't know if it will ever happen, but in the event North Greenville does go D1 ever, I don't know how that works. I don't know the process for that. I mean, shoot, Dallas Baptist. I mean, look at them. They're D2 in every sport except baseball. I don't know how they do it. We need to figure it out, and I think that this school could go D1 and very much so compete. But anyway, I'm not pushing for it. I'm saying Clemson would be stupid not to look his way. That's what I'm trying to convey here. And when I went on Twitter last night, when I was on a Clemson page, I saw the idiocy that was Clemson fans go, oh, one guy called him a coot because, he's like, this guy's a coot. He's a Carolina guy. He played for South Carolina. I'm like, look, yeah, he played for South Carolina. I don't know. What was it, 14 years ago?
But he beat Clemson every year he was out of South Carolina.
I know. And look, I get it. Exactly. It's like, but that was 14 years ago. This kid was an All-American. He played in the majors. Landon Powell did. I mean, I'm not saying I want him to go. Again, I said on Twitter, selfishly, I'd love for him to stay at North Greenville, but D1 money is D1 money. I understand. I understand. And Clemson's willing to fork it out. So, I mean, like, you never know. Again, I don't think it's going to happen because Graham Nerf, or the AD Clemson, the new one, said, we're going to go for a splash hire here. A splash hire is not a Division II coach. True. So I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm saying, if it did happen and he went to a D1 school, I think it would be funny that we pulled him away from South Carolina. And I think, again, I'm just saying this guy's going to be a heck of a coach. If I would love for him to stay at our alma mater, Ben, NGU at North Greenville. But, I'm not ignorant. And you can't be ignorant about it. Eventually, maybe one day, especially if he wins the national title this year for Division II, you can't help but look the guys away. Because, his first year that they won like 8 games, Ben. No, excuse me. The year before his first year. First year there, he won. It took him to like 21 more wins and an NCAA regional appearance. I mean, you can't ignore that fact. Been the 5 NCAA regionals. They've only had super regionals twice. He went to both of those. Now he's in the D2 College World Series as the top seed. We'll see where that goes. Hopefully they win it. But so we'll have to check back in that within a week or so. But yeah. Overall, man, I'm excited. I mean, for where this program's headed. But it's like I was just saying on Twitter at THulk18, by the way, and at Benjamin London on Twitter if you want to hit us up. You can't just look there and go, oh, he's a Gamecock. Oh, hey, this is a Division II guy. Oh, this guy had transfers with left and right. I saw North Greenville Baseball comment. There was like 7 guys on that roster that were very impactful guys that came to North Greenville out of high school that they've developed, that have been in the program, including one of the best hitters in the country. And John Michael Fell came to North Greenville out of Boiling Springs High School in South Carolina. Okay, this guy knows how to use the transfer portal. I mean, he knows how to use it. He knows how to do it. He was kind of doing that before it was popular, before people really, really wanted to do it. So he knows how to do it. He's taken D1 talent. He knows how to use it. He knows how to work with it. I'm not saying I want Clemson to hire him. I'm saying you would be stupid and ignorant to not even look his way, though. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that somebody mentioned on Twitter, which blew my mind, they were like, oh, well, he had like 15 D1 transfers go to NTU, and that's why he's so successful. And then I think it was Clemson fifth quarters, the one that's been posting this thread that we've been on.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because they were like, and you don't want this guy because he's bringing in 15 D1 transfers. He's like, what does that tell you this man can do about the transfer portal? This man can recruit, and he's done it for years at North Greenville. And I know it's a little small town up in Tigerville, South Carolina, up in the middle of nowhere in Greenville County, South Carolina. But let me tell you, this dude knows how to go out and recruit. I mean, you look at this roster and see where all these kids are coming from. I mean, it's all over the world. I'm telling you, this dude doesn't just recruit in the state of South Carolina, which he does great and fantastic, by the way. But he also goes out and gets kids from Hawaii, from South America, and all these other places.
Czech Republic, one of them, but
Yeah.
who he came from NC State, but yeah.
Yeah. But still, I mean, overall, he's going to get guys who have come from all over the world and have been very, very successful in that program. And I don't see why in the world, it's like you mentioned, Tim, I don't see why in the world Clemson would just be like, hey, this dude's like, if we can't get our big splash hire, this is the dude we're going to hire. Like, that's what I would do if I was Clemson. Like, hey, I know I want to go get a D1 guy that's been successful for many, many years, but you want to have that backup plan. And I would say that he would be the best backup plan for Clemson. And I think it would be great for Clemson fans to go out and look at South Carolina fans and say, hey, we got him before you did. And
we took your All-American catcher. We took him.
Exactly. And, I mean, and watch. And I said this on Twitter, and I'll say it right here on the show. Whoever gets Landon Powell as their next head coach for baseball you got to look out for whoever's conference he's going to be in, whether it be the SEC, the ACC, whoever gets this dude, he is going to be the next best head coach in college baseball. I will mark it down right here on the show because I truly believe it.
Oh, I'm 100% with you. I mean, this guy has proven that he can take – I mean, dude, Ben, there's the D2 College World Series. They have 50 wins already.
Yeah.
They're 50-10, okay? Again, the best region, by the way, because everything is sorted out in D2 differently. Baseball, you stay within your region for postseason until the College World Series. You basically, it's like the Little League World Series. You send one team to represent your entire region, okay? And the best 8 regions basically go at it. The Southeast region had 3 of the top 10 teams in the country this year. Now, they went through one of them. They didn't have to go through the other one because the other 2 kind of went at it. But they faced a very good Columbus State team, and first 2 games were back and forth, 9th inning comebacks before they eventually came out and just squashed Columbus State, the team that they had problems with in the past. They knocked them out 2 of the last 3 times they've been to a regional. So they were able to knock them out, punch them in the mouth, win 13-3 to clinch their berth. So, I mean, this team, and Landon Powell always talks about how he's had to fight for everything in his life, and he knows that, and this teams resemble that. They don't quit. They don't ever quit. And so, like, if you're looking for that, I mean, guarantee you, South Carolina fans, that's something you're looking for. I mean, and look, I understand. He would be a much better fit at South Carolina because he played there. He was an All-American there. If you're Ray Tanner, man, I don't know what more you're looking for. I mean, like, you've got your guy right now that just had – I mean, you guys were 500. You're South Carolina baseball. Just a decade ago, you won back-to-back natties and went to the year after that, you went to the finals. And now you're having a year in which you were fighting to be 500? I mean, come on. Like, you've got a guy in your state – that is leading the best program in the nation, and it shows. It's not like he inherited it. He got there. They hadn't even they didn't even win 10 games. They didn't even win 10 games. His first year, boom, 28 wins. And they've only gotten up from there. Ever since then, he's won 30-plus games every single year, including the last 2 times that they've had seasons in which they played enough games. Because in 2021, with COVID, everything that put serious restrictions on the schedule, of all those other years, he's won 40-plus games, I believe, 3 times now. I mean, this is his first 50-win campaign. He's going for his first national title. I mean, this guy's right in your backyard, and you're going to want to bring back mediocrity? I mean, come on. I mean, you fired Chad Holbrook back in the day because of way less. and you're going to keep him around, and you're going to allow for a name to be floated around at Clemson, which, I mean, again, it'd be a miracle. It would be shocking if Clemson decided to go with Landon Powell. I'll be honest with you, just because of everything that they're saying, they want to go for a splash hire. I don't think it'll happen. But
yeah, I don't think it will either.
The fact that you're allowing that to happen, the fact that you're allowing rumors like that to happen, and if they somehow were to actually slip in and get him, and he comes back and he's over there taking you to the woodshed every year, 3 times a year, I mean, I don't see how Ray Tanner would survive that. So I'm surprised he's letting this happen.
Yeah. And I think when you mentioned his overall numbers at the 8 years he's been at NGU, and this is actually up to date. So this is updated wins, losses, totals. He's 246 in 95. This dude hadn't even hit 100 losses yet in his career at NGU, which blows my mind out of 8 years, because a lot of coaches, when they first start out, they have a lot of rough years. This dude has not really had a rough year at all at NGU. And one tie, he's .721 overall, Sam. So he's basically 72% win percentage at NGU in 8 years. A lot of coaches can't even do that at all in their career. So shout out Landon Powell. I mean, and it's like you said, I hope he stays at North Greenville, because he has been an absolute phenomenon. I think when you go to North Greenville and you experience everything at North Greenville, everybody knows when baseball season comes around, it's legit. Like, everybody cares about baseball around there in Tigerville. And so I think they're just going to keep ascending no matter what happens. If Landon Powell takes the job, whoever comes in next has some big shoes to fill from Landon Powell. So that will be very interesting to see how that all plays out.
And absolutely. And to squash one more final thought, Ben, the squash the transfer thing even more. It's like, yeah, he does bring a transfer. He's very good at it. But let's be real here. There's D1 guys that have transferred there that sit on the bench. I mean, there's an outfielder that transferred from UNC Wilmington.
And they're fine with it.
They're fine with it. Yeah, they're understanding, because the guys ahead of them are that good. They've developed that much. They understand. I mean, the backup, the third string catcher is a transfer from East Tennessee State, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's where it was from. I mean, the third string catcher who's been fighting for time recently due to injury, but I mean, he's a redshirt freshman this year. He was a transfer from a D1 SoCon school. He's third string. I mean, it's not because they aren't good. He's produced very well. It's just the guys ahead of him. One of them is considered one of the best hitters in the country, and number 2 is a guy that I call Shohei Ohtani of this team. I mean, he with just a little bit less power, he can do everything for this team. So it's just, there's so much depth, so much talent they recruit. I mean, then majority of the infield in which that they had out there in the super regionals either came straight from high school or transferred from NAIA schools or JUCO. I mean, so it's not like this team was just, hey, you from Clemson, you from South Carolina, you from NC State, you come here and play. No, there's that, but it's not everybody. So, and he knows how to develop talent. And as a whole, this team is really good. Landon Powell's an excellent coach. So, and it's something people need to understand. And it's frustrating, because that was really why I engaged on Twitter, Ben. I was frustrated at all the people that were ignorant and thinking that, D2. I'm like, guys, I mean, the guy that's on
the best D2 coach in all the country. Like, be realistic. And this dude deserves D1. I mean, he does. Yeah.
And he's young, too, for a coach. He's like in his 40s. Yeah. I mean, he's very, very young. And you just look at it. Where was I going with this? There we go. But
the reason why you engaged on Twitter.
Yeah. The reason why I engaged on Twitter, the fifth quarter Clemson guy, and posting out there, and everybody's just out there going, oh my gosh, D2 roll, and you're just like, are you serious? Like, D2 guys, I played Division II baseball, Ben. These guys are legit. I mean, there's a reason why there's a decent amount of guys that get drafted. I mean, I remember watching a guy for UNC Pembroke last year, who's in North Greenville's conference. So North Greenville actually did better than this year in conference. There was a guy for UNC Pembroke that got drafted in like the second round last year. Yeah. I mean, dude, there's guys that legit throw 95, 96 in Division II. Now, it's not every day like you see more of in Division I, but you still see it. I mean, there's a guy from North Greenville, Nate Roof, who I don't know if he's going to come back. He's dealing with an illness right now. He's pumping 94, 95 for that team out of the bullpen. I mean, it's just one of those things where you're just like, look, guys, D2 baseball is legit. These guys either just didn't get the exposure, or they just missed the measurables by that much. Kind of like what FCS football is at the D1 level, for us. So I just think people need to understand from foundation. that what he's doing at North Greenville is freaking impressive. Okay, it's incredible what he's doing, and he deserves a D1 spot if he wants it. Obviously he's gonna. It's his situation. Obviously he's got everything he wants to do. I'm not going to speak for him at all, but if he wants that D1 opportunity, I think he's very well earned it.
You know what, Tim? Here's what we need to do. After this College World Series is over for D2 baseball, we need to invite Landon Powell on the show. I mean, we talked about him so much. Like, we've talked about him so much, even off air. And this year has just been phenomenal. Probably one of his best years yet at North Greenville. And just seeing what he's been able to accomplish, we got to get Landon Powell on the show. We definitely do. So
I love to.
We got to hook NGU baseball up with us and see if we can get that to happen. But we will be patient and we will wait, because we may say he's a Division II champion head coach of the North Greenville Crusaders. Who knows?
Don't jinx it.
Who knows? So hopefully that's the case. Well, Tim, that's actually all the time. We were going to talk MLB, but we'll have to save that for next week. So any final thoughts before we go?
Man, everything's pretty much covered. I'm excited for some college baseball this upcoming weekend. Starts tomorrow. Yeah. So I'm excited for it. And then North Greenville in the D2 College World Series Sunday night at 6:30. I'm looking forward to
it. Is it 3 games that they got to play, and then they play 1 game in the championship, or how?
Well, D2's weird.
D2's different. I know they are weird.
Yes. So they have 2 different sides of the bracket. If they win their first 2 games, they're set up in the driver's seat. Then they win the 3rd game, they go right to the finals. Again, then if they lose, they have to play a winner-take-all game, or if they have to win 4 games if they go through the losers bracket. So hopefully they don't do that. But at D2, so if you lose a game, it's like if say the 2 teams on 2 sides, opposite sides of the bracket, Point Loma out of California, I believe it is on number 2 seed. They come through, they win the first 3 games, they're in. North Greenville wins the first 3 games, they're in. It's a best of 3. But say North Greenville comes in, they're 3-1. Point Loma's 3-0. North Greenville has to beat Point Loma twice in order to win the national title. It's not a series at that point. But if both teams come in with a loss, then they just play 1 game for the national championship.
Okay.
So it's a D2 baseball. The way they do everything in the postseason makes no sense to me. Like, I mean, they'll have 3-team regionals, and it's so complicated. But it wasn't complicated this year because North Greenville took care of Pembroke in the Southeast Regional 1.
Pembroke.
So thankfully that happened. But just the way they do the postseason in Division II is very funky. It makes no sense to me. They don't even do it that way in softball.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
For D2 softball. But anyway, I'm going to get off my high horse there. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, shout out 5th quarter Clemson for interacting with us all week. I know they're probably tired of seeing our Twitter handles all week long. So thanks for shouting us out, and we appreciate it. Before we go, check out Section 103. You can get 10% off your first order. They are actually now the NIL leaders of Georgia Tech Athletics, so go check them out. And you can also go check out swarmtheatl.com. And you can actually get some Section 103 merch from there as well. And then last but not least, check us out on social media, all social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Sideline Sports Show, unless you want to go to Twitter, it's Sideline SP Show. And I want to shout out that Madison Bumgardner video that we made on Instagram. That thing's up to our best like percentage we've ever had. So, and literally it's still being liked as I'm talking because there was a notification that just popped up. So shout out to all of you guys liking our reels and everything on Instagram. So make sure to go check out all those other social media platforms to interact with us as well. And then we will be back next week, Tim. And you know what's closing in on us, Tim?
What's that?
It is almost time for us to begin to make our college football conference predictions like we did last year.
That's right. It's June.
We got to start. I know it's June. So we got to start studying who we believe is going to be our conference champions. So we get to talk some nonsense like we did last year because I think our predictions were way whacked up.
Hey, whoa. I got Georgia winning the Natty. Thank you.
I
called that preseason. I called that in August last year.
There you go. I will give Tim that because but that's coming up in July. So that
now,
we got a little bit of time.
To be fair, I did have Clemson as the number 1 seed. So you win some, you lose some,
Yeah, that's true. So just be on the lookout for that as well. All right. That is it for today's Sideline Sports Show, episode number 34. Go check us out on all of our social media platforms. Until next week, have a great week, and we will see you guys right back here next week on the Sideline